Okay, boxing fans, this weekend we've got a world title fight between two Brits happening in Britain. It's Stuart Hall defending his IBF bantamweight title against Paul Butler. This fight flew under the radar a little bit. It's probably because it's on Box Nation and not Sky. It's not got the hype job that we normally associate with an all-British fight. But we're going to talk about it and pick our winners. I've got Mark here and I've got Kingy. He's okay, lads?
Yeah,
Yeah.
good mate.
Very good.
Good stuff, lads. Alright, let's jump into it. I'll start with you, Mark. Has this fight come too soon for Paul Butler? I think he's only had half a dozen fights or so. He was British champion, and he's been fighting British level fighters and a couple of international level fighters. Do you think he's ready for a step up to fight for a world title?
I think he's ready to fight Stewie Hall, but I think at the same time it would have been nice for him to have a few more fights at bantamweight. I mean, this is only his second fight at bantamweight for the world title, which I don't agree with. I think he should be made to go through the rankings a little bit, actually win a few fights, a few important fights before he gets a world title. But I'm more old school in terms of the best guy gets the fight for the world title. That's not the way it goes anymore. Is this too early for him? Like I said, I don't know. Depending on the opponents, I think Stewie Hall's the weakest of all the champions at bantamweight. So if he's not going to win this title now, then I don't know what he's going to win and when. Is he going to move back down if he doesn't win this title? I don't know. So I think this is the right time. I think it's the right time. Yeah.
Okay, here's the next question for you. Hall's last fight with Martin J. Ward, it ended very controversial. Well, not controversially, it ended unfortunately. It was stopped on a cut in the second round. Do you think Ward should have got a rematch before Butler got his title opportunity? Do you think Hall should have had a rematch with Ward?
Yeah, I do. Basically, the fight was actually a decent fight. For the 2 rounds it was going. Stewie Hall defended his title against Martin Ward, and Martin Ward was going to be the first ever Gypsy to win a world title. It was a half decent fight for the 6 minutes that it was going. Well, it wasn't even that. For the little bit it was going on, and it ended in what should have been. And now I thought, this is what I don't understand the rules in this exact scenario. I've just watched Nonito Donaire versus Simpwepe Vicheka.
This is the fight from the weekend, yeah.
Yeah, and what pronunciation that was, by the way. Right.
Well done.
I know. I've just watched that fight, and they let that fight go 4 rounds, so it would become an official fight. They let
that fight go because Donaire told them to, basically.
Yeah, and he had a cut. Okay. And now, after 4 rounds, it went to a technical decision, and it ended up Donaire won the title, and he's going to give him a rematch. Stewie Hall, defended his title against Ward, cut in the second, stopped in the second. As far as I was aware, that should have been a no contest because it's not an official fight. However, something else has happened,
It's been ruled a technical draw.
It was called a draw, and then he's not got a rematch. So I think he should have got a rematch. Yeah, I just thought I didn't like how it played out. Should have got a rematch.
I suppose there was the argument from lots of people that Ward shouldn't have been getting a world title fight anyway.
I agree with that too. But at the end of the day, Stewie Hall didn't deserve a title shot when he got it against Malinga.
Yeah, and to be fair, he did go in and seize his moment. How do we know Ward wouldn't have done the same?
And true. And if you look through any weight limit in the world, how many times does the man who deserves the shot get the shot?
Not very often.
Exactly.
Well, fair point, to be honest. Another question now. Go slightly away from this current fight. Hall was rumoured to be fighting Anselmo Moreno, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who is the real WBA champion at bantamweight, not Jamie McDonald, that title he won the other night at Wembley. Moreno is the real WBA champion. There was rumours that he could be fighting Hall next, but it's not materialised, at least not yet. Would you like to see the winner of this fight him?
it's a bit. It depends how much money's on the table. It really depends how much money's on the table, because I don't give Hall a hope in hell's chance of winning that fight. I don't give Butler a hope in hell's chance of winning that fight. I don't give Ward a hope in hell's chance. In fact, we could get all three of those guys in the ring together. You know, Ward, Hall, and Butler, and they could all fight Moreno, and then it might be a competitive fight. No, I wouldn't want to see that fight, because I want the winner of this fight to at least get a few defences in before he cashes out. If Moreno actually makes decent money, he is from Panama and fights a lot of his fights in and around Panama, so I don't know if they make a lot of money.
I believe he signed with a Britain. Is this true? He signed with Asif Valley, I read somewhere, so he's going to be coming over to Britain to fight anyway.
Well, in that case, I suppose it could happen. Maybe one of those guys could end up getting the fight.
I don't know that for definite, but I just remember reading that a couple of weeks ago. So
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Okay, well, let's forget about Moreno for a sec then. Do you think the winner should fight Jamie McDonnell? A lot of people think McDonnell should never have been stripped of the title in the first place, and that he's the rightful IBF champion. Do you think the winner should fight him and settle it once and for all?
Well, at the end of the day, people are forgetting that Jamie McDonnell knew that he had to defend his title against Malinga. He knew this, and he said, "I'm not fighting for peanuts," which was like 30 grand, which is the minimum amount that that you're allowed to sanction a world title for. So everyone was in their rights for that fight. He should have took the fight if he wanted to keep his belt. He didn't want to keep his belt, and he dropped it and moved to Matchroom.
Well, he clearly does want to keep his belt, because he's still got it and he's still carrying it around at press conferences, acting like he's still champion. Yeah, which is a bit tasteless.
Yeah, he didn't want to defend his title, though. Okay.
Yeah.
He didn't defend. He carries it around like.
Maybe he still wants to take photos with it, but he doesn't want to defend it. I know what you're saying.
He didn't defend it when it mattered, and that's when Hall turned up and done it. Hall's already fought McDonnell and didn't do too well. If Butler, you see, only if Butler wins would that be a better fight. But even then, I can't see it happening, because Matchroom don't do business with other promoters, and you can't say that about people who are on Box Nation, because Box Nation has Francis Warren, and who's the promoter for Hall? It's
I don't know, Dennis
Hobson, two different promoters working together to make this fight. So you can't argue with those facts.
But you don't like the idea of Hall getting a rematch with McDonnell from just a fight's point of view?
No, I don't. What's the point?
It was a close fight last time.
I didn't think it was close.
Well, I've just got the scorecards up now, and I'm reading it. It was 1-1-5, 1-1, 1-1-5, 1-1-3 on two scorecards, and 1-1-4, 1-1-6 on the other. So only 2 rounds.
So only 2 rounds. Okay, well, I suppose a rematch wouldn't be the worst thing, but I don't see it happening, and I personally don't have any interest in watching it.
Okay, fair enough. Well, final question now. We'll go back. We're back to Butler and versus Hall. Who do you think is going to win? By what method?
It's a very tough fight, and I might need to get some wood to sit on the fence. But I'm actually going to say I'm going to go with the underdog. See, this is how unpolitical I am. In a Scouser, not picking the Scouser. I'm going to pick Stewie Hall to win. The underdog, Stewie Hall to win.
By knockout or decision?
By decision.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'd be happy if Butler won. I wouldn't be too bothered either way. I've got literally no dog in this fight, basically. I'm going to pick Stewie Hall to win, but like I said, I wouldn't be bothered either way.
Okay, well, good talking to you. We'll move on to Kingy now, and we'll get his thoughts. Are you there, Kingy, mate?
Yeah, I am, pal.
Alright, we'll start off with the first question. Has this fight come too soon for Paul Butler? He's had 15 fights, a lot of them at British level, and the last couple have been against international opponents who were sort of okay. Not great, but not terrible.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, he probably could have done with a bit more international experience against some different styles and that. But I think he's ready. Like, I think it might be at the right time for him. I think Hall's getting on a bit, so I think could be right for the picking. So
yeah, he's clearly very talented, Paul Butler, and as you said, Stuart Hall, he's no spring chicken at all. He's 34, and he turned professional when he was 28. So he's done extremely well, considering that he probably only turned professional to make some money.
Yeah, and a lot of his fights are back and forward fights. He's never really in fights where there's much skill involved. It's just sort of getting in the trenches and gutting it out, which you got to give him respect for. Like, but
definitely.
When you're 34, it's got to eventually take it out of you, hasn't it?
Yeah, and you mentioned taking it out with him. Stuart Hall, for anyone who doesn't know, spent about 10 years living in Ibiza, where he basically, by his own admission, he basically spent 10 years just living a party life, sleeping on beaches and going out to nightclubs getting drunk.
We've seen what that did to Ricky Hatton, so I'm sure it hasn't done the best for him. So
he hasn't lived what we'd call an athlete's life for most of his life. Maybe he's turned it around clearly in the last few years, but he's not a spring chicken. Whereas Paul Butler is still in his 20s. But we'll move on. I asked the same question of Mark. Stuart Hall in his last fight fought Martin J. Ward. It ended very quickly. It didn't really get going. 2 rounds, it ended in a technical draw. Would you like to have seen Hall fight Ward again instead of this fight?
I wouldn't mind Ward getting a shot at the winner of this, really, mate, to be honest. I mean, like you say, a lot of people who could say, and I was probably one of them that said that Ward didn't really deserve the shot at him, but you could say that Hall didn't really deserve the shot at Malinga in the first place. But
yeah, fair point.
I'd say that, it was one of them, it kind of left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth, didn't it? Because it looked like it might have been a decent scrap. And neither of them were great, but, sometimes when you get two guys with similar levels, you get a cracking fight, don't you? So, yeah, I'd like to see him take on the winner because, I think he got his chance and it was sort of...
He got his chance.
It wasn't his fault, was it? What happened, so...
Whether you agree with whether he got the fight or not, at the end of the day, he still didn't get a chance to try and seize it, which
exactly.
He should get that chance once he's been given the title, once he's been told he's getting the fight.
Yeah, and I think if Butler wins, it'd be better because then he can get the fight against Butler, a different fight, and then hopefully see how that goes.
Yeah, well, another rumoured opponent for Hall was the WBA champion Anselmo Moreno. Would you like to have seen Hall fight him? Or would you
the real WBA champion, is that, yeah?
The real WBA champion, yes. Would you like to see Hall fight him or Butler wins?
No, because I wouldn't mind keeping that belt over here, And I don't think it's going to last long over here if any of them take him on, so...
As I said, I don't know if this is definitely a sure thing, but I did read that Moreno was going to come over and fight in Britain because he'd signed with a British promoter. I don't know that for a fact. I never read. So maybe if he wins, the belt will stay in Britain anyway.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool. Because maybe he's thinking that there's quite a lot of bantamweights over here. He can probably maybe make more money over here than he can fighting in his home, in his home country or surrounding area. So maybe he thinks if I come to Britain and track him down, I might be able to get the fights and take all the belts home.
Yeah, fair point. Next question. Would you like to see the winner fight Jamie McDonnell? Good fighter, but he's not a world champion, not anymore. Let's make that clear. Whether you agree whether the belt was taken off him or not, he's not a world champion. He had the belt stripped off him, and the WBA title is garbage.
Yeah, it's a pointless title, just like Scott Quiggs got. I mean, why the WBA is doing this? I mean, this is another subject. It's ridiculous. Like, how can you have two champions? You're either the WBA champion or you're not. You're like...
Exactly. Would you like to see him fight Hall? Because there are a lot of people who think that he shouldn't have had the IBF title took off him.
From a fighter's point of view, yeah, maybe he'd probably be a pretty good scrap, But
yeah,
I wouldn't. I don't really see the point in it, to be honest. Like,
yeah. McDonnell has beaten him. It was a close fight, but McDonnell did win clean.
Yeah, and probably McDonnell's on the way up, from then. And, I think Hall's on the way down, so.
What about the idea of Butler facing McDonald? Does that appeal?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not happened before, and, I think Butler's got some skills, so I won't mind seeing that.
Okay, then. Well, final question now, and the most important one. Who are you backing to win, and by what method?
I'm going to pick Butler by unanimous decision. I think he's just got the better skill set than Hall, and if he can stop Hall's, forward momentum, and when Hall tries to dig in the trenches and he can just outsmart him a bit, I think he can get the decision. Well, I couldn't see him stopping him, but I think he can take the decision, definitely.
Well, it's one apiece. I'm going to have to decide a vote then. I'll start off, I'll ask the questions to myself. Has the fight come too soon for Butler? Maybe it has. He's not had a ton of fights. He's only had 15, and against mixed opposition. Some good opponents, some not so good opponents. But at the end of the day, when the opportunity comes knocking, you've got to take it. I don't blame Butler for jumping at the chance, especially when the champion he's fighting is Stewie Hall. When, to be fair to Stewie Hall, he's done well for himself, but he's definitely the weakest champion in the division. Would I like to have seen Hall fight Ward again? I did feel sorry for Ward, the way the fight ended. He didn't really get a chance to seize his moment, seize the opportunity. But at the end of the day, I do think there are better fights out there for Hall. This fight with Butler is a better fight than the fight with Ward was. So I think Ward, unfortunately, is going to have to go back to the back of the queue. And if he wants another world title fight, he's going to have to work his way back up. And Anselmo Moreno, I definitely think both guys should keep away from him. As Kingy and Mark both said, I think he's a class above the both of them right now, and they should have a few to with defences first, make themselves some money before they think about stepping up and fighting him. Will the winner fight McDonald? I would like to see the winner fight McDonald. I do believe McDonald deserves another crack at the IBF title. But, Matchroom, they can deny it till they're blue in the face, but they don't let their fighters, or at least any of the fighters that they're bothered about, they don't let them fight on rival cards. They don't let them leave Sky. And I believe Dennis Hobson and Frank Warren. Dennis Hobson's not going to let Stewie Hall go and fight McDonald on Sky. And the Warrens are not going to let Butler go and fight McDonald on Sky either. So that fight, seeing McDonald fight for the IBF title is a bit of a non-starter for the time being. Who do I think will win and why? I'm going to pick Butler. I'm a Scouse lad. I am going to back Butler, unlike Mark. I'm not going to do it just because I'm a Scouser. It's because I really like Butler. I believe in him. Whereas Stewie Hall, as I've mentioned, he's done great for himself considering he only turned pro to basically make himself some money and to give himself some discipline. But Butler, I think, is just a natural better boxer than him. He's a lot younger, he's fresher, he's got better skills. I think he's really gone through his opponents and impressed. I think this could be Paul Butler's moment. Whereas Stewie Hall, he had his moment last year when he beat Malinga. And no one will ever be able to take that moment, that night away from him. But I remember when he first won the title, thinking to myself, he's not going to have that title long. And here we are 6 months later, and I think this is when he's going to lose the title. So I'm going to back Paul Butler by a decision now, actually. I think he's going to outclass Butler. Right, that should be the cue to end this. Tell us what your thoughts. Who do you think will win, Butler or Hall? Thanks for listening.